back for a bonus episode. I know we were just back last night, but we're back again. But this is not about us. It's episode 360. And if you're looking alive, you are absolutely an Indiana Hoosiers fan. Holy smokes. 27-21. Hoosiers beat the Hurricanes. Game-ending interception. All that stuff. Absolutely ridiculous. We're buzzing on a Monday. Confetti falling all over the Miami football field. We deserve that. Let's just say it as that. And if you're Indiana and what a way to end the season college football wise, because we had two really good defenses, two good programs. Indiana just seemingly out of nowhere the last 2 years with Kurt Signetti, Fernando Mendoza, his absolutely ridiculous interviews everywhere he goes. You're just like, man, I don't know what this guy, I can't put my finger on this guy, but man, does he make plays. Unbelievable. Indiana deserved to win that game. And it's not like Miami did anything to lose the game. I mean, yeah, Carson Beck had the ball in his hands, tried to win the game, but he couldn't. And it was kind of similar like that all year was the Carson Beck story. So, but just it had everything you wanted. I mean, it had fourth down conversions. We had kickers missing kicks. We had ridiculous big-time plays, 4th down and 5, Fernando Mendoza, Heisman moment, spinning off people, diving into the end zone. Just a play that will live in history forever if you're Indiana. So we're going to try to go down through this as quickly as we can, because it's a work night, for one. But I'm sitting there in my recliner. I'm like, this game's too electric. We got to do a show. So I always take notes during the show. And that's kind of what we do things here. We go through the notes, and then we take a look at the box score, and we kind of recap that way too. So, but I mean, holy smokes. If you're Indiana, like the amount of people that traveled to that game for Indiana, and the reports are all over Twitter, all over social media, it was insane. So, but we got the Mendoza shots, his parents all throughout the game, the Mendoza cam, Mark Cuban's in the crowd. Like, just it's just so weird. It's so weird, but what it does is it proves that the college football playoff works. This is what people have been saying for years, is if you put a appropriate amount of teams into a college football playoff that looks like a real playoff, you'll get this. This has been curated over time with Indiana and Miami making it both to the national championship. So it's what's good for college football. It's having multiple teams. It's having teams like Indiana. And I mean, now they're a powerhouse, right? Like now everybody looks at them at 16-0 and is like, wow, I can't believe they're that good. And they got all this money coming in. It's like, but if they hadn't been able to make the playoff last year and they hadn't been able to compete this year, like you never would have known that, because they probably maybe not would have been ranked number one for some reason. They would have been an SEC school, it would have been Georgia and somebody if the rankings were different. But now, because you've got 12 spots, you can allow that to happen. So this is a kudos to the college football playoff. They're going to try to change it again. They should just leave it alone and just let it be. Just let it be. Because, yes, it looks like now it's like, oh, Indiana's a powerhouse. But, last year, Kirk, what's-his-face, Herbstreit was up there saying, Indiana shouldn't be allowed to be back in, or something of that effect. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But this is about Indiana getting it done for everybody else who is to follow Indiana. And it's about Miami getting in, not winning the ACC, getting in at large, winning their game against Notre Dame. Like, they had to earn their way in, and I was skeptical. I didn't want them in. I thought BYU should have been in, but hell, I was wrong. So, and then they played their way to the finals. That's what it's about. That's what it should be about. So, but we're going to go through these notes. I mean, the first half, national anthem is incredible. Like, every time I hear, that is the greatest hype song in America, in American history, the national anthem. Every time I hear that song before a big game like that, I get the most insane amount of goosebumps. It's absolutely insane. Because back in our day, Javi and I and some of our friends, we played on three national title. Well, I played on three national title teams. And when you're standing out there and the national anthem's going, like, that's something you don't forget. Back when we were playing at App State, like, we played in 3 consecutive national title games. We all played them in Chattanooga. And when you're standing out there listening to the national title or national anthem in the national championship, and it was a really cool story whenever we did ours, the mics went out. Trace Atkins was singing the national anthem in Chattanooga. The mic went out. So all it was the crowd singing the national anthem. So every time I hear the national anthem before a big game like this, it takes me right back to being on the sidelines, listening to the crowd sing the national anthem, and it just gives me this unreal feeling. So when I see that, you see all the pageantry on the sidelines, all the former players, all the people in the stands, just jacked up for a football game. It's incredible. So, I mean, these two teams were similar. They were very similar. You know what I mean? But and the other thing before this that we noticed was Indiana's fan base was rabid. They traveled to the semifinal game. They traveled to this game. It was like 60 or 70% Indiana fans down there. So, but when you get into the game of the first half, we're not going to go all the way through every play of the first half, but there's a couple of big plays. But you could tell that Miami was just feeling everything out and not really trusting Carson Beck early. You know, it was they needed to diversify their playbook. I mean, Fletcher is freaking phenomenal, but you know, once Indiana got up ahead, it was evident that they were a little bit weary of Carson Beck throwing the football. You know, they're used to kind of bullying people on the offensive line. When you look at their offensive line, they're massive. But Indiana is so disciplined. You know, and I got to give it to Carson Beck. He turned it on a little bit, but and then Miami's defense early on, they were playing off coverage and it was kind of letting them go down the field. And Indiana's defensive line too, when you look at the offensive line for Miami, Indiana's defensive line and their gap control and their ability to be where they're supposed to be and fit where they're supposed to be. I mean, outside of the big Fletcher run in the third quarter, I mean, it was pretty much they put hat on a hat, and they are so disciplined. I mean, yes, they're an old football team, but still, like, they are so disciplined, and they don't make mistakes. We'll look at the box score here in a minute, but it's just crazy. You know, you had that, and then in the first half, really the story was, you know, you had the field goal early on by Indiana. I mean, their points were at a premium early on in the first half, especially. I mean, it was what 10-0 at halftime, so it was kind of You had a field goal early by Indiana, and then you had, and that happened with what? That happened with 2 minutes to go in the first quarter, and then you got your first touchdown on that fullback dive. But that was a 14-play drive from Indiana. I mean, that's what they do. They just what do they call it? They just I wouldn't say bore you to death, but they just, God, what's the word I'm looking for? They just preparation you to death. They just boom. It's so methodical what they do. And then it was a brutal PI call, by the way, too. The college football, of course, on a third down, there's a pass interference play because Miami's defensive backs were once they got turned loose, they're aggressive. They're handsy. They play the ball. Like, Miami's defensive backs came to play. And then Miami ends up, we had the fullback touchdown, all-time fullback name, by the way. What's that guy's name? Nowakowski. That's a tight end fullback name if I've ever heard one in my life. So shout out that guy. And he was a big part of the offense. Like, these were two very good coach teams. You could tell that they knew what they needed to do, what they had to do. I mean, that number 37 for Nowakowski for Indiana was involved. I mean, you're talking about a 14-play, 85-yard drive touchdown. And then Miami gets the ball and they doink one off the uprights, which I got a bone to pick with the uprights. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, you can't in big time games when there's mics and cameras everywhere, you can't have a field goal upright post that makes a clang jingly sound. Okay. When that Miami kicker's kick hit the upright to end the first half or whatever, like, it made this rattling, clingy sound. And it's like, no. I need a doink. I need that to be way more hollow. You got to tell me if this is, like, I just wasn't expecting that as a football fan. That's just me. So we end the first half 10-0. And also the camera on, they know, the people on ESPN know Kurt Signetti and his face, his facial expressions. Like, that dude, he looks like John Mayer up there. Like, he doesn't know it, or maybe he does. I don't know. But his facial expressions are John Mayer-esque, is what I would say. So we go into halftime, it's 10-0. We're like, oh no, like Miami can't do anything. What happened to their defense? Indiana was kind of up and down the field. Miami's offense looks stagnant. They Indiana has not trailed for a single second in the entire college football playoff. Unbelievable. So, in the third quarter, just a brutal third down face mask to open the half. Like Miami's defense comes out and they're like, look, we're playing man. It's man on man, hat on a hat, dog versus dog. Let's go. And then on a big third down, like 3rd and 17, there's a face mask, but it ended up giving a first down, but then they ended up holding. So there was no problem there. And then the next drive, you get the Mark Fletcher. And that dude, what a story Mark Fletcher is. Like, what a story. He's an easy guy to root for. His mom in the stands with just absolutely outrageous sunglasses on, just cheering her face off. Absolutely phenomenal. And Mark Fletcher is talking with one of our old teammates, TJ and Josh. Josh is running back, TJ wide receiver. And they were like, Mark Fletcher's got to learn to run with his pad level a little lower. He's got a little Derrick Henry in his running style where he's really upright. But man, that dude's fast. I mean, there's only one Derrick Henry, but that's, he's got a nice upright, lean stride. I'll tell you that. But he's an easy dude to root for. I like Mark Fletcher. With the Miami pass rush was a story of the third quarter. Like they were everywhere. They were up and down. And so we thought Miami's coming back, getting this absolute momentum drive here. And then you're like, okay, Miami's offense flames out. It's 17-7. Here we go. Or it's 10-7. Here we go. And then, boom, we get a punt block from Kamara, who came over with Cignetti from JMU, and he makes play of the game. I think he ended up winning Defensive Player of the Game. So all three phases, like when you watch Indiana football, they got a quarterback and an offense they're gutsy. They're not afraid to make the play or try to make the play because they made it all game today. They got a defense that's so freaking disciplined. It's unbelievable to watch them. Like, there are no gaps. Like, outside of the Fletcher run, that was the only mistake, really. So, and then they've got special teams, right? The block a punt. So, in the third quarter, we had 14 points there. It was 7-10, then it was 17-7 in a hurry. So it was just and this is where it got hot. Like, again, there was another PAT from the Indiana kicker that clanged off the uprights, and it made that stupid weird sound. So it's not a doink; it's a clang. That was a clanging. Thank goodness it didn't come down to a field goal where they were going to try to name that the doink in Dade County or something, because it wasn't doinking; it was clanging. And then the fourth quarter was like an absolute gong show, right? We had Mark Fletcher. They ran like a was it a belly or a trap? Miami did, to cut the score to 14-7. Fletcher got his second touchdown. And then Indiana gets the ball back, and they go on another. So Miami tops their drive off with a 5-minute drive. 10 plays, and then they get that touchdown for Fletcher, and then Indiana turns around and they go 12 plays. I mean, every drive they had for a touchdown was that field goal was 12 plays, 14 plays for their touchdown, the first one, 12 plays for their second one, 11 plays for their, I mean, they just, I can't think of the word to describe that right now, what they do, but they just fundamental you to death. It's crazy. So Miami, we get the touchdown at 17-14. Indiana gets the ball back. They go on a 12-play, 5-minute drive, 75 yards. That's when we get they go for it on fourth down, coming down the field, right? They throw the most unstoppable pass you've ever seen, the back shoulder to Becker. He makes a great catch. They go for it again with 9 minutes to go. 4th and 5 from the 13 of Miami, and that's when you get your national title make the statue out in front of Indiana's football stadium where they run the quarterback draw on 4th and 5. Mendoza gets clanged. He spins around, almost goes down, but doesn't, gets back up, leaps into the end zone, ball over the, and it's just exactly a national championship moment that we all deserved and we all needed. And then Miami gets the ball back, and they go back down, and it's the Malachi Toney drive. He's ripping off big plays. That dude's electric. Can't imagine what his YouTube highlight tape was from high school. But then it's 21-24. And then Indiana gets the ball back, and we're just boom, 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 back and forth. Another back shoulder to Becker on that drive before the field goal on a 3rd down. Like, it's Indiana was like, when we get in a sticky situation, we know we can lean on our cornerback, and we know we have dudes that can make plays. Like, that's what it boiled down to. I mean, it was most of the time, coaches are not going to go for it on 4th down. But the trust that Cignetti has in Mendoza and the dudes on the outside, the playmakers on the outside, I mean, that's what he did. He's like, he probably got in the huddle and looked at Mendoza, because remember, they called a timeout before it. He probably got in the huddle and looked at Mendoza, was like, can you make this play? Or I believe in you, you can make this play. And Mendoza went out and did it. Like, that's what it was. That's all it was. So Joe Outdoors is here. He says, good game, go Big Ten, go IU, 16-0 national champs with a Heisman winner in the U's house. I gave you a like. Hey, Joe, shout out to Indiana, man. Shout out to this new era of college football where we can get Indiana to win a national title game. They can go get a good coach. They can bring in recruits. They can bring in people from the transfer portal. And they can win a freaking national championship. And it's the college football that I want. I don't want the college football. And thank you for the like, man. Thank you, Joe. Hope you enjoy this title. Go celebrate, man. What a game. It's college football I want. I'll tell you that. Where we get Indiana versus Miami, a 10 seed in the national title game. What a game. So it's, Indiana gets that field goal. They're throwing back shoulders. They got dudes. They got dogs everywhere. It was time and time again. It was like, we have the Heisman winner. We're 16-0. We know what it takes to win. And there's nothing worse than confetti falling on you after you lose a game like that. That's a bad look. So, unbelievable. He said, shout out to the Canes, too. They earned their spot. They were both 100-1. Yeah, I mean, but they did. That's what I was saying earlier. Like, Miami earned their way in. Like, I didn't want them in to begin with, but now that I've seen, but again, it just goes to show that we just got to get the teams in the playoffs, right? Give yourself 1 or 2. You know what I'm saying? 1 or 2 losses you're okay with. But, man, Mark Fletcher's emotional after the game. That sucks. But what a game. And then, all right, so Indiana gets a field goal. They go up by 6, and we're like, okay, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Carson Beck. This is why he came back. This is why they pay him the big bucks. This is why he's not going to class. He hasn't been to class in 2 years. Hey, legacy drive for Carson Beck. Guess what? Delay game, first thing. Unbelievable. And then there's a roughing the passer on IU, and I'm like, man, these referees in the biggest moments, they didn't call a roughing the passer for Indiana all game after Mendoza got his bell rung all first half. And then they come out and Carson Beck gets stuck in the solar plexus and like flag. And it's like, oh no, we're not going to do this again. I just watched an entire NFL weekend of playoffs where it was big. It was flag at a big moment. And I'm like, I don't want the game to end like that. Let these two teams battle it out. Let them play through the whistle, be consistent. And then Miami makes a couple of plays and then Carson Beck underthrows a deep ball down the sideline. Looks like it was in either cover 2 or cover 4. Because the corner was playing underneath, and he just underthrew him. He had him. If he throws that ball to the goal line, it's a touchdown. But he underthrew him. So, I mean, not to rag on Carson Beck. You could tell they were a little bit leery of him leading, and that's what we said. Somebody asked me before the game, what do you think happens? I'm like, if Miami gets down, it's going to be tough for them to win because they're going to have to rely on Carson Beck. Nothing against the guy, but we saw what happened. He threw a pick. He threw an interception. You hate it for the guy because you don't want your college career to end like that. I mean, I remember in high school, that was the last pass I ever threw was an interception. So it sucks. You'll never forget it, especially that. I mean, mine was you know, holy smokes. But so I mean, what a game. What a game. I mean, it was everything we wanted. It was big plays, physical defense, you know, it felt like every yard was gained and earned, and that's what you want. Now you've got other schools that are inspired by Indiana, 16-0 teams in major college football history. That's a shot at the FCS and D2. Ferris State went 16-0 at North Dakota State. But Yale in 1894 went 16-0, and Indiana 2025 went 16-0. There you go. But it's just beautiful because we're going to get more schools like Indiana. And the problem is the people that are running the show, that are running the College Football Playoff Committee, are so involved with ESPN and so involved with the SEC. And they got all these TV deals and network deals, and all the money's tied up in that. And now you've got these independent people coming in, right? He said it's so sad how the 49ers lost to the Seahawks. Yes, Michael, it was sad. But hey, man, credit to the Seahawks. Like, I hate the Seahawks. They were better. The defense was better. I mean, there was nothing we could do about that. There was nothing we could do. Like, McDonald outcoached Shanahan. Seattle was healthy. They attacked the weaknesses. So, but I'm just hopeful for college football because it's like this format at least has some leeway and some leverage to get these idiots out of the way. The last thing we need is for them to start doing away with auto bids. That's the last thing we need. So I'm hoping there's more Indianas. I'm hoping there's more stories like that. It's incredible. Let's just take a look at the box score here because, dude, I know. You see my flag back here? See my little football? You see my little football? Sorry. Or my helmet. It was sad. It was so many injuries. I mean, you're right. It was. I mean, the fact that they made it to the divisional round is incredible. I mean, leadership, coaching, Purdy playing out of his mind. It was incredible. Those of you listening to the podcast, we film in front of a live virtual audience. So I'm getting ready to wrap it up here because I got to go to bed. But the team stats. That's what I like to. Oh no, let's look at the box score. So Mendoza finished. He was 16-27, 186 yards. No touchdowns, but he did have that incredible rushing touchdown. The two-headed monster for Indiana, 139 rushing yards. Mark Fletcher was sensational for Miami. Carson Beck was 19-32, 232, a touchdown, one interception, back-breaking. Malachi Toney is just what a unicorn that guy is. Unbelievable. He had 10 catches for a touchdown and 122 yards, and then Indiana just has a bunch of guys that are like, they're not superstars, but they all have a role. They all have a specific role that they play. Surratt, usually their possession guy. Omar Cooper made a couple plays. Charlie Becker, he's the back shoulder guy. Like Nowakowski had a couple of receptions early when they couldn't get it going. So, it was, and then, Miami's defense, there's players everywhere. Torrey, Bain, Basanth, the safety that had to sit out, the DB that had to sit out. So what a game. What a game. Okay, let's take a look at the team stats. I love looking at team stats. First downs, Indiana 20, Miami 15. Third down, Indiana was 6 of 16, Miami was 3 of 11. So that's a big deal. Fourth down, Miami was 1 for 1, Indiana was 2 for 2. Like, you love seeing in a big game on that final drive, Indiana just says, you know what? This is how we win natties. We want to be legendary. Let's go be legendary. Let's go get a fourth down. Play to win the game. God, I love it. Total yards basically even. Passing yards, Miami has the edge. Rushing, slight edge to Indiana. Penalties, kind of even. Only one turnover in this game. Like I said, I mean, this thing, for the most part, was a very clean. It looked like a national title. Like, both of these teams deserve to be there. You can't look at that and say both these teams didn't deserve to be there. So, kudos to Cignetti. Kudos to Indiana. Kudos to the Hoosiers. Kudos to Miami. They earned their way there. They played their way in there, and they were right there with them. They're the only team to keep it close against Indiana in this playoff. Indiana's had an average margin of victory of like 35 points. So it was everything we wanted. Came down to the last play too. Came down to the last second. Like, it's beautiful. love football. We love, love, love football. I mean, that's it. That was the last college game of the year, though. You know what I'm saying? So, all right, we got NFL playoffs. We're gonna be back in a couple of days. I just wanted to get on here, do a little stream because I couldn't help myself. I gotta go to bed though because I'm tired. I gotta go to work, but nothing better than talking football with everybody. So if you're listening to the podcast, you're new to the YouTube channel, new to the Rumble channel, Instagram, all that stuff. We really appreciate everybody joining, keeping it going. And go follow us on all our social medias. Go download the podcast, subscribe to the podcast. It's out, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, Good Pods, Amazon, anywhere you find your podcast, that's where we're at. And then all of our social medias. You go and you type the Millie Goats on any social media or basically any social media, and we're right there with you. Twitter, we're most active on. But anyways, so we appreciate everybody tuning in. If you're listening to the podcast, thank you. Everybody have a great Tuesday. We will be back Wednesday night to preview, to talk about this game a little more and to preview the championship weekend of the NFL slate. Until then, look alive, ladies and gentlemen.